How's it going, guys? This video is a replay from my fourth battle in my 30 days of Warhammer multiplayer series, and this fourth battle was my first loss that I've experienced so far in multiplayer. And after going back and looking at this replay and going over my strategy and actions, I can definitely see why I lost it. I made some critical mistakes. Some things were in my control and preventable, some things weren't. So in this video, I'm going to highlight some of those major things, and hopefully it'll be a learning lesson for all of us. So let's get started. So this is a 3x3 map. I have the Empire here on the right flank, the Dwarves here in the center, and then me as the Bretonnians on the left. So this is my first time playing as the Bretonnians. A critical mistake that I made was that I didn't have any land cavalry. I went Pegasus heavy. Pegasus are excellent units, but I believe that with the addition of a couple cavalry lane units, that would have made a significant difference. Namely because my opponents, I'm directly across from the Dwarves, Chaos in the center, and then another Dwarven faction on the far right side. So the Dwarves have no cavalry. I could have outflanked them as they came in, which I'll highlight here in a little bit. But in terms of army composition, next time I'll go for probably 3 Pegasus units, probably a couple land cavalry. And in terms of this land army, it's entirely spearmen and men-at-arms and peasant archers. There's not too much you can do with the infantry side, so this is probably going to stay the same. My general is the generic general, and I picked I believe she's a damsel. Yes, a damsel. She's a wizard. She has some pretty cool spells. And another mistake that I made with her was just not understanding the spells, not timing them right, not managing my magic. So let's go ahead and get started to check out to see what's going on. So I initially wanted to start my army backwards a little bit because I knew the Dwarves would have some artillery, so I didn't want to start off in range, so I dropped them back. The very first move I did was I moved my Pegasus units to the far corner of the map, hopefully to kind of create like an out of sight, out of mind thing for the enemy forces, to give me a chance to bring them up the side and flank in. So this was actually a decent move on my part. I was able to sneak them up the side and then flank these guys as they charge in. My ally here in the center, the Dwarven faction, this guy does an excellent job of holding his own throughout the entire battle. He actually does not move from this spot. But one thing that I noticed right away, as soon as this battle started, was that this line is probably going to break. Most artillery-heavy armies, they just aren't that good. You might be able to do a lot of damage to a couple units, but in terms of stopping an approaching army, it's just not going to happen. So as you'll see later, these guys do break. This is the first army to get wiped out, which exposes our flank, which definitely hurts us, but at the same time, if I had been able to take out my army and then swoop around here into the center army's flanks, then I think us two could have won the battle, but I didn't hold my own on this side, and because of that, we ended up losing. So now that I see the Dwarven army advancing, I decided to move my army up to stand in line with my allies here in the center. I'm not especially worried about their artillery pieces because they're organ guns, so they have a shorter range. They do start firing on me as they get closer, but I have my Pegasus units here in standby, which I actually bring up around and then hit them from the rear and disable those organ guns pretty early in the battle. So as you can see here, the artillery is coming in. They are doing decent damage, but as I said earlier, it's just not going to be enough to rout this army. I'm not sure why these guys have stopped. They're just taking damage. They should continue their assault. If you're going to attack artillery, you got to keep moving, because the longer you stay, the more you just play into their strengths. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up a little bit. So what I did here is I ended up just dropping back and then moving forward again, and I did this almost as kind of just a feint, as if I was trying to flank or move just to make these guys think, and it looked like it did stop them for a brief second. But let me just talk about quickly. So a mistake that I made, especially with the Bretonnia faction, is when this army was coming down and it was organizing itself right here, that would have been a good time to press the attack. Anytime that an army is on the move and they're trying to form up their lines, and if you can catch them at that point and you can catch them off guard, even if you don't want to have a sustained attack, even if you want to hit them, do some damage and pull back, that's always a great time. But once the army's lined up and they're set up the way that they want to be, they automatically become tougher and you miss opportunities. So instead of pulling these feints and messing around and basically playing a defensive game, I should have pressured them, and then I could have combined that with my Pegasus units, but unfortunately I didn't. So as you see here, I'm sending in 3 Pegasus units. I should have sent all 4 of them. The Pegasus units are coming around the backside. As you can see, I'm placing them back here. The organ guns are now teeing off on me. I'm not sweating it too much yet. It is kind of annoying, and it's definitely hurting my troops right here. But I put a stop to that here in a couple seconds. The Chaos Army is now engaging the Dwarven Army, and these dwarves here are just badass. Extremely durable. They hold their own throughout the entire battle. The general just came in and wrecked some fools. Okay. So I have my Pegasus units coming in now. I have 3 Pegasus units. They have 3 artillery, so I figured assign 1 Pegasus unit to each of their artillery. And that shut them up. So that was one of the good things I did this battle. And here is another big mistake. So I'm holding my line. I'm expecting these Dwarven units to charge in at me. But actually what they do is they stop in front of me and then they unload their charges. And I just wasn't paying attention to this, or I just wasn't expecting this. I'm just not that familiar with the Dwarven units, and I didn't pick up on this until too late. So they did heavy damage. So what I should have done next time, and I'll keep this in mind when I'm facing Dwarven army, is once they get in close, to actually countercharge and then close the gap, to make sure that they can't just sit there and tee off. As you see, they actually routed this entire unit. Let's go over and check out my ally on the right. As I predicted, these guys are basically done. They didn't last very long. The enemy army is essentially still intact. They have some casualties, but they're going to actually come in and then hit the Dwarven army from the right side. And this is the beginning of the end right here. So at this point, I believe, I ended up sending in the rest of my Pegasus units because I realized that there was a lot of value to be had by having all of them up here. And so I'm basically attacking and then pulling them back, attacking and pulling back, because I don't like getting hit by these range units. But what I end up doing actually is, once I took out the organ guns, then I moved to take out the missile infantry. So I actually did a good job of neutralizing that. Something that I struggled with also was making the most out of my damsel unit. I wasn't familiar with the spells, and earlier I actually casted a spell and timed it horribly to the point where the army had already moved on, and so when the spell was cast, it just cast it in an open field. I believe that was earlier in the battle. So these guys are still standing strong. They're still holding their own. I end up dropping my archers back to make sure they can continue to fire and pepper these guys. At this point, it's not looking good for my front line. I was able to recover a routed spearman unit and then move them back to the line, but it's just a matter of time now before this line falls. Let's see, where's my damsel unit at? Okay, so I recognized that my line was falling apart, so I brought in a Pegasus unit to flank from the side to hopefully do some damage. And it's just, as I said earlier, it's too little, too late. I bring my the remaining Pegasus units in to take out the missile units. I'm getting attacked here by one of their heroes. I actually believe that he drops back. My ally at this point looks like he's just chasing the enemy general, not even worrying about the rest of his troops. Where is my damsel? Okay, so my damsel's right here. She actually routed because I believe I sent her into combat, or she got caught by a unit, but she'll actually come back later. I have my general in here fighting just because I'm getting desperate. I'm trying to hold on to this corner side, but at this point, the rest of my line's gone. I had to withdraw my Pegasus units from the back here, and what I'm trying to do is gather up my forces again. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to support my allies in the center. Maybe what I should have done, instead of withdrawing them over here, I should have withdrawn them back over here and then helped them hold off this line. So I do have my Pegasus units coming around, so what I do is I believe I bring them around the back, try to hit these guys from the back to help out the dwarves. Yeah, so you can see my Pegasus units are moving in from the back. Man, these dwarven units were so tough though. They essentially held off 3 different armies for a good amount of time. So I'm retreating my general and I'm trying to save the last of my troops. And I brought my Pegasus units in to attack their infantry unit, or sorry, their long-range units. And the Pegasus units, they don't last very long on the ground, so I usually charge in, do some damage, and then pull back out, and then charge in again from another angle or to a different unit. So, in terms of Pegasus management, I think I did decent. I definitely could have done better, especially in the early stages of the game. I have my damsel just chilling back here. I'm trying to build up some magic to save some of that. And the enemy dwarven faction that I lost to earlier is now regrouping. They're moving in on my allies in the center, and eventually what happens is the inevitable, everyone just focuses their attention onto us. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. Let me just talk real quick about what I'm doing here. So again, I'm just doing more hit and run tactics with my Pegasus units, trying to identify vulnerable targets, just trying to do what I can. And then I do have 4 units of archers left. I still have ammo, so what I do is I move them up in range. They still have their long-range units as well, and so I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
Honor awaits.
We have the enemy general moving back in the battle. I question the value of him chasing the enemy general all the way to the border of the screen. I almost wondered if it would have been better for him to stay with his troops, but he recognizes that his army is basically done, so he actually runs him to the back line of my troops, and he does have some surviving units that he does move over, and we have a final stand at the end, but it's pretty pathetic. I'm gonna go ahead and speed up again. So we're just exchanging arrow fire here, and I'm out of ammo. So I dropped my guys back farther, out of range, because these guys are just hammering me really hard. I'm bringing my Pegasus units, so I had engaged them on this far side here, and I brought them around the back, and I believe I'm going to leave them here and then try to come in once I see an opening, but there just aren't any openings. I don't have enough Pegasus units left to do any substantial damage. Let's just go ahead and speed it up some more. Yeah, so my ally is dropping back his units to try to form up with me. At this point, I'm just trying to recharge magic. It's just a waiting game right here. Okay, here comes the enemy army. So I do cast some spells and some guys coming in here. I need to figure out which spells are effective for what, but I believe that... Okay, so I'm moving up my damsel. Oh, alright, so here we go. I cast some kind of wind spell, which knocked this whole unit down, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure how many guys it killed, but I was actually able to time that one alright. So right here I'm dropping back my archer units, even though they don't have any ammo. And I'm holding in line, my allies moving up, and I believe I cast another spell here. Let's see. I'm moving up my general unit. Let's speed it up a little bit. So as you can see here in the back, I am moving to my Pegasus units because they did leave their missile units out, so I'm trying to do some damage to them. And that is pretty much it. So my last final ditch effort was to try to assassinate one of their hero units, which would really serve no purpose at all other than just a small personal victory. But lessons learned here is defense has a place and a purpose, but an effective offense combined with defensive elements is probably the best way to go. I definitely shouldn't have sat and waited for the enemy to come to me, because that way then they can implement the strategy that they want to implement. I should have had some land cavalry units, because I should have recognized that the dwarven units, they don't have any cavalry, so outflanking them would have been extremely easy. And I should have been more aggressive with my Pegasus units. And finally, I need to just do some custom battles and mess around with the spellcasters and understand the timing of the spells and the effect of the spells and the duration of them. And I believe that the spellcasters can be a critical part of the battle if used and timed properly. So hopefully you'll see me work some better strategies in future videos, but this is my video recap. Thanks for watching. Peace.